Hey, this is 6-Bolt Von Doom's Lab. So this is actually Hook of the Reaper release version 1.2.2. So the first thing is, am I back? No, sorry, I'm not. But I've been feeling better for the last couple weeks. But in the last 3.5 months, I just been so bored, especially for the 3 months. I mean, not the last half month, but the 3 months before that half, I was really bad. I was just sitting on the couch or laying on the couch or sleeping pretty much. That's all I was doing. So, but now, since I've been kind of feeling better, I've just been so bored and wanting to get things done. But so I just been starting off, and I did some things slowly, kind of building up things, and I thought, hey, I might as well just release it. So, but I'm still gonna be out until kind of I see what happens, kind of with some medical tests that's happening here pretty soon. I have a big test on Friday, and pretty much so. Since I'll probably have some tests being done, I'll probably know for certain for where things would be going later on. So that's why I kind of want to get this done before the other test too. So okay, so still kind of let's get past the bad news and let's go right into bugs. So there's only one really bug, and that's with aim track doesn't work with the ammo check default LG option. So the ammo check option, that's where for games like House of the Dead, Scarlet Dawn, or Time Crisis 5. So because those games you can switch weapons, and when you switch weapons, you can get like a fake recoil. So that's why I kind of check the old ammo minus new ammo and make sure it's equal to 1. But here I'll show you actually the bug too is here. Since the aim track has the recoil delay, which is 250 milliseconds, so it blocks recoil for 250 milliseconds, that ammo number is going to change in between. So it's never going to equal to 1 unless you're like firing kind of slowly. So I mean, it might work for, I think Time Crisis is a single shot. It might work for that, but definitely not for House of the Dead, Scarlet Dawn. So what I did for the aim track, I just make sure it can never go in, to enable the ammo check in the code. So that was a really quick and easy one to fix. So that didn't really take any time to do. So I did that. So that was easy. So let's go into enhancements, which are kind of a lot of smaller ones. So the first one I actually did a while ago. I actually disabled the warning in Hook of the Reaper. So when you have like player 1 and player 2 and player assignments, but the player 2 light gun is not plugged in, you get a pop-up warning saying, hey, can't find the player 2 light gun. I think in version 1.1.9 or 1.2.0, I turned that off. So to kind of make it, I think I had enough people just say, what's the plan for that? And also, I do have a plan and advanced features to kind of fix all that. But I think a lot of people just didn't like it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just take it out because I didn't have it for the main hooker side. It was only for the default LG side. But now I turned it off. Now you don't get that pop up anymore. But like I said, I think I turned that off in 1.1.9, so it's not even in this one. But I just keep on forgetting to tell people. Okay. The next one is I added start to the block, shake, and block, recoil, rumble to solenoid default option. So I talked about these options later. This kind of, you can block shake or block recoil rumble to solenoid based on a signal. And if it's that signal equals or not equals to something that you set. But I didn't have, but the problem with this one, it couldn't start automatically. It wasn't blocking at the start. So if I had something in the beginning that was a problem, it had to wait until that block signal came in. Then once that block signal came in, then it could block it. But if it was doing other things, it might not do it. So that's why I put the start in. And so now it will start until it got the block signal. Then from once it gets the block signal, then it knows what to do. So the start just means it starts blocking it from the beginning. And the reason why I needed this was for a game called Gunblade New York for the M2 emulator in the Demolish shooter. So what happens when it boots up, it causes the recoil rumble to solenoid to go off for like 10 seconds just when you boot up, during the boot up. So that wasn't good. So here is actually the default LG game file. And as you can see here, this is the options. Then I have the block recoil when the block signal equals to 0 and block it from the start is pretty much what it does. Then down here you can see I'm using the life signal, player 1 life, for player 1 block signal. So now I don't need, the reason kind of why I did that is if I come here to the website, right, I used to have 2 game files. So I had the normal one, then I had another game file with recoil rumble to solenoid included in it. So now with this putting that into the options, now I can get it down to 1 game file, which was my goal for kind of everything, just to have 1 game file for everything. So that was kind of an easy one. The next one was to add a network test to Hook of the Reaper. So I know, like, one of the things I put up for the technical assistance or support was I know people sometimes block the internet for like MAME and Demolish Shooter and TechnoParrot. And I don't think it doesn't do it anymore for the Hook of the Reaper because I fixed how the TCP socket connects, because it was going out. But now, since Hook of the Reaper only uses the local network, the network test couldn't test the firewall at all since it's all local. So it became useless, you know. So if the firewall was blocking Hook of the Reaper, it wouldn't do anything because it's all local. So I couldn't really test. So pretty much that goes on to MAME and Demolish Shooter and all that. So I couldn't put that in. So that was an easy just to test out, but it didn't go in. The next one was for the player's ass.hor file. This is the player assignment. So a while ago, I put it in where every time a new game starts, Hook of the Reaper loads up the player assignment. Then it loads up the game file. And the reason kind of does this is I know a lot of drive makers will change up the player assignment.hor file to change around light guns or add light guns, and that changing them around, and they were just, you know, closing Hook of the Reaper, then change the file and reloading it. But now you don't have to do that. You just have to, you can change it while it's up and running. You just can't change it while it's a new game starts, because it will try to read it. And to make sure there's no problem, I have Hook of the Reaper now will lock the file down. So we'll lock the playerass.hor file down when a new game starts, when it reads it. So that's just a safety thing to make sure. So anytime the player assignment file gets read, it gets locked and all that, just to make sure somebody's not changing it when a new game starts. So, okay, so that was an easy one. Okay, so now I'm kind of getting into more of the stuff I kind of really did. So I updated the add light gun and edit light gun windows. So it was getting kind of big. So what I did was kind of add some tabs in it. So here I'll actually just show it to you. So now when you add it up, now you see it's pretty smaller, a lot smaller. And also I kind of try to update it to try to help people out. So now you can see down here, like, because if default light gun is 0, it's acting as you can input your own serial port in. That's why it highlights this stuff. So you can see here I have the interface because it's the serial port interface, the USB HID interface, and the TCP server for the send-in. So it's kind of the different interfaces of the light gun. Then over here is the settings of the light gun now. So they're not all kind of in one long window. And also, as you can see here, when I go down here, if I pick Reaper, now you can see, you just need to put the name in and put the COM port. Then these get automatically set and locked down. But these, as you can see here, are just, they're kind of disabled and also very light. So you don't have to do that. So it kind of makes it kind of nice to visualize kind of what's being used in the new window. Then the edit window is pretty much the same thing, but you just have your saved light guns up here. But it's pretty much the exact same thing. Then you can edit them too. But the bad thing now, I probably have to go redo the tutorial videos because now it looks kind of different. So when you watch the videos, but that was one of the reasons why I was trying to push this tutorial off until the end, because I didn't know what changes I was going to make. But another thing before I go on, for the Retro Shooter MX24, I kind of changed this. This was actually dip switch player, but I found out the dip switch player doesn't really have any effect on the feedback recoil. What it really affects the feedback recoil is what USB plug you plug into in the Firebase hub. So in the Firebase hub, only player 1 and player 2 actually have the feedback recoil. Player 3 and 4 don't. So if you plugged it in the USB hub or the Firebase USB hub and use player 3 USB or player 4 USB, it will not work. You have to use player 1 or player 2 in the Firebase USB hub. Then, like I said, the dip switch doesn't matter. You can have, player 2, you can have a dip switch player 2 plugged into player 1 USB hub. And like I said, what matters is I have to know you're plugged into player 1, because that's, I give the commands to it, and then it sends it off to the light gun. So that's why I kind of want to talk about this change that it was actually me and Chris Kuhlman were working on. We found like it wasn't really working, and then we found out, hey, it has nothing to do with dip switch player. It actually has all that to do with the hub. So that's where I changed it now to try to make it more apparent. It's like, hey, it's not the dip switch, it's the USB plug now. Then the COM port down here is the COM port of the hub again. But as you can see, when I did that, all this up here kind of went light because it just matters for these two signals. And as I go down for them, now Gun for IR kind of lights up. The same with Fusion, Blamcom, Open Fire. Then and now we get the alien USB. You can see all this is not highlighted. It's all light now. Then the USB gets highlighted and the stuff that you need to do turns into red. Then it kind of just goes down more. And if you go down the Sinden, same thing going. So the first top, those get light, and this kind of gets red and highlighted. So it's kind of a little more easier to do. And that kind of goes with light guns in the settings. So now it's pretty evident of what kind of settings you can do and all that. But that's kind of the new, so I spent some time. Doing graphic stuff is pretty easy and pretty brain dead and easy to do. And that's kind of what I started with, is updating the add light gun window and the edit light gun window. But hopefully now you like them better. Now they're kind of a little more, can figure out what's going on. Okay, the next one for the alien gun, you can see down here I added no 2-digit display because I saw some alien guns don't have the 2-digit display. So what was happening, if you didn't have the 2-digit display, then Hook of the Reaper just keeps on sending display USB signals out, which go nowhere because it's thinking, hey, this light gun has a display, but it doesn't. So that's why I put this in here. Then it takes out the display commands and all that. So just to make the performance a little better for for the light gun. So we're just not sending all this useless, wasted commands on the USB. And you get a little better performance. Okay, so then the next one, kind of the big one, which probably people will like, is I redid the reload settings, and I added in damage, death, and the shake feature. So, and this is all dependent. So if the light gun has like the shake or vibrate motor in the LED, like the open fire, I know the gun for IR, fusion, Flamcom, open fire, the Xena's gun, those will have all these settings in. So for the reload option, here reload will do the vibrating or shaking in the LED. Then if you just want the LED, you pick here. If you just want the vibrate, you select that. If you don't want anything for reload, you select that. Then same thing with damage. You can have both LED, shake, or none. And same thing with death. Then we come down here to the shake feature. Well, there's only a handful of games that have like the shake feature. So this depends as if you want that shake feature in. I know I have the shake down here, but it is for the shake feature. The shake feature is like when a monster roars or these big doors open, it kind of vibrates your light gun to kind of give you a feeling of what's happening. So I kind of put that in. So these are kind of the new settings. And like I said, so on the Reaper, it doesn't have a LED. So what happens, you just have up here, so when so reload is just the shake motor, and disable means nothing happens. Nothing will happen on the reload. And that's the same for everything. But what happens when there's no LED and no shake, right? Well, I know like the MX has that. Well, everything just gets taken out and you can't do anything. So I think the MX, then the alien light gun, and the aim track are like that. But now it kind of sets it up. So if I go through the light guns, you can see how they kind of get turned off and on with stuff. But I think that's probably what most people want, because now it gives you the freedom and control to play the games on how you want to. You can change and turn off certain features that you like or don't like. And this only affects the one light gun. So if I make a Reaper, right, and turn off reload, then put in another Reaper, put another Reaper player 2, I can turn on the reload. So player 1 won't have reload, player 2 will have reload. It doesn't wipe it out for all of the Reapers. So now that's kind of how it's put in. So it's kind of cool. Now it's kind of over in the settings. As I said, you have 2 tabs on there. So the last one is kind of a bigger one. This is where I kind of had to do coding. So I kind of moved the output signal filtering into the TCP socket thread. So on Hook of the Reaper, if you're in multi-threaded mode, there's 3 threads. You have the main thread, which is mostly, the Windows and graphic stuff like this, and the Hooker engine. Then you have 2 secondary threads. So the other thread is the TCP socket that gets connected to MAME or Demol Shooter or the emulator or emulator tool. So that just pretty much got the data from the TCP socket and sent it to the Hooker engine. Then the last thread is just for the outputs. That just did the outputs. So the Hooker engine just sent it out to the outputs. Then that thread took it in and sent it to the serial port, USB, or TCP server. But since to kind of give it a more balance, I thought I would move kind of the filtering from the Hooker engine into the TCP thread. Because kind of what happens is when Hooker engine reads the default LG file like this, or the MAME Hooker INI game file, it will read, go, okay, I need to look at P1 CTM recoil, I need P2 CTM recoil, I need P1 damage, and so on. But there's other signals that have nothing, like lamp start, which you don't really care about. You don't really care about what's it doing because it's not going to affect anything with the feedback. But it still gets kind of displayed, right? When you start a game, it still gets displayed out here. So the Hooker engine kind of did that filtering. It looked in, so when the signal came in from the TCP socket, it says, okay, is this a signal that I need to process? Because like the P1 CTM recoil, I need to process that to say, hey, do I need to do a recoil on player 1's light gun? But if player 1 lamp start comes in, nothing's connecting to it. That just goes off to the display data kind of thing. That's the only thing it does is the display data. So now that filtering, that kind of filtering I was talking about, has moved into the TCP socket. It's still a little in the beginning of the Hooker engine because it's kind of weird how you hand it off, which kind of gets into kind of a weird kind of thing of handing off the data. Because multi-threads kind of is a pain. So how you hand it off, because when a game starts, when the game comes in, I still get, you get all the signals too, especially when you start Demol Shooter. So you have the game and all these other output signals coming in. So you don't even have time to even load up. So that was kind of a way to kind of synchronize it. And also it depends if this is here. If you have this here, it's displaying data. But if it's minimized, I don't update the data when it's minimized. So that's another thing. So when Hook of the Reaper is minimized, which probably 98% of the time for most people will never have this open, it doesn't send the the output signals that are not used. So that was kind of a weird one to go through, but I'm just kind of balancing more, putting more work into a different thread. And it was kind of a pain to try to get everything to sync up and handshake right and work together. But that's working, like I said, with the default LG and the MAME hooker INI game config files to both sides of hooker engine. So, and like I said, some of it, it doesn't matter when it's minimized, but when it's up here, it's displaying it. So it was kind of a little bit of work and testing out, but it all works really good now. So this will make the performance a little better and all that. So now a lot kind of spreading out the work. But that's kind of version 1.2, version 1.2.2. So thanks. Bye.